All right. Hitting record. And it looks like we are live. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Awakening Consciousness with Ash and Jesse. Got a great show for you today. Probably going to be our best one ever. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for this one. We got a lot of good stuff to talk to about Kyrie Irving, Southwest Airlines, public schools, and the real point of all of this is to build alternatives. So that's what we're going to get into. We always like to take a positive light on what's going on around us, and I think if you sort of see through the narrative, see through the nonsense, that it actually is a very positive thing that's going on around us, despite what it might look like. But before we get started, I do like to take a second to focus our energies and intentions on the community that we're trying to build here. We're trying to build a community of like-minded people to grow, survive, and thrive in the world to come. The world is, there's some crazy stuff going on around us, but I think if we can see through the narratives and recognize the opportunities that are in front of us, we can build a much better place. And so thank you for doing that. And so how was we did take yesterday off. Unfortunately, we couldn't get our schedules aligned. So how are things? How'd things go yesterday?
Good. Yesterday actually was interesting. I had this massage with somebody who's like a trained psychologist, trained physical therapist, massage therapist, but then gets deep into like the esoteric quantum world, and it was quite an experience. And very good. I think I really made some progress on the sort of emotional, spiritual level. That was a lot of fun. Then I went and had beers at lunch. I was feeling so good, which was kind of funny. And then I had meetings the rest of the day. And then I jumped in. Oh, my son is crying. What's the matter, buddy? Can you hold on, give me a second? You talk for a second.
Sure. So got to deal with family situations here. All right. Well. Sorry about this, folks. I wasn't prepared for what I was going to say. So, All right. Well, I think he's going to talk about his experience with sort of rejoining the last sort of ties to the system of what's going on. So I'll let him take that away.
Okay, we're back. We'll see. My son's upset because my wife left without him. It's very sad. Okay, that's enough. That he's got to talk. So last night I watched the Eagles game, and I always joke that the NFL is my last connection to the Matrix. It's sort of my last sin, you could say, in a certain way. And it was really interesting. They got their ass kicked by the Tampa Bay Bucks. They're not very good this year. And the funny thing about it for me, as I'm watching the game, and I'm just realizing how effective in the Matrix world the NFL and that sort of stuff is, because as I'm watching the game, I'm having dark thoughts like towards the other team. Like fuck this guy, hit him. It's like, right. You're like, guy gets hurt. You're like, yeah, right. Like I'm having negative and dark thoughts towards the other team. I'm hating the refs. I'm hating the league. I'm hating everything. Right. And it's just very much driving home the point for me of just what a Matrix activity that is. And just how part of the sort of mind control stuff that all is. Anyhow, watched the game. We lost, went to sleep, didn't get a great night's sleep. And I should stop doing that.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what's going on with Tom Brady, because Tom Brady they were playing the Bucks last night. Yeah. So I would be shocked if Tom Brady was taking the medical injection. because he is all about, sort of natural healing, and he has a very, very strict and regimented routine of eating and exercise and all that stuff. I would be shocked. And so I bet there's some sort of deal that he's worked out with them. I don't know if I've even seen him wearing a mask. I don't know if you have, but
I mean, he's also in his mid 40s playing in the NFL. Like I'm 38. I just tried to play in a little 3-on-3 basketball tournament and barely survived. So,
right.
I don't know what he's got going on, but I want some.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously he's kind of like the golden boy in the NFL, but I don't know. I don't think he's participating in the requirements, and there's got to be some sort of deal that he's worked out, because I would be shocked if he is. I don't even think he's wearing a mask. I could be wrong. I don't really pay attention anymore, but I would be shocked. Anyways, sticking with sports. Another sports star, Kyrie Irving, is making news. He is, I don't know, probably one of the top 10, 15 basketball players in the NBA, probably around there. Very good player.
At least.
Perennial all-star. Just one of the best players in the game.
The best handles I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. One of, if not the best dribbler of all time. And yeah, he's just a really good player, outspoken about a lot of different things, but we're not going to focus on everything that he's outspoken about, but just his decision to remain unjabbed. And so let's hear what he has to say.
I had to stop running away from using my voice and using my platform to, speak on what's true and what's mine. Nobody's going to hijack my voice. Nobody's going to take the power away from me that I have for speaking on these things, and don't believe that I'm retiring. Don't believe that, I'm going to give up this game for a vaccine mandate or staying unvaccinated. Don't believe any of that, man. Like really be aware of what's being said before I even get a chance to be on a podium and speak for myself. You know what I'm saying? Like all these people saying all these things about what's going on.
Yeah.
Not true. Pay attention to what's going on out in the real world. People are losing their jobs to these mandates. People are having to make choices with their own lives, which I respect. And I don't want to sit here and play on people's emotions either. Just use logic. What would you do? If you felt uncomfortable going into the season when you were promised that you would have exemptions or that you didn't have to be forced to get the vaccine, this wasn't an issue before the season started. This wasn't something that I foresaw coming, where I prepared for it, and I had a chance to strategize on what was going to be best for me and my family. I came into the season thinking that I was just going to be able to play ball, be able to use my talent to influence people in the right way. Putting this on me is just like, why are you putting it on me? This is not.
So yeah, I think.
Well, hold on, Asher. Let's paint the larger picture for people who don't know. So they have mandates in New York City for stadiums and different events and numbers of people gathered and so forth. So they have a mandate they have a mandate where to enter the stadium that Kyrie Irving's the team plays for, the Brooklyn Nets, you have to have been jabbed. So and a couple of months ago they came out and said this applies to players as well, not visiting players, but players on the home teams. So for the New York Knicks and for the Brooklyn Nets and for the Golden State Warriors, I believe are the only three at this point. All players are mandated, and the league has basically come out and said, we're going to go along with this. We're going to enforce this. We believe in this essentially. And so it's a government's like city government plus league on the same page saying, yeah, in these places, everyone needs to be jabbed or they can't play. And so that's the situation that Kyrie Irving is in. There was another guy whose name I'm forgetting out on the West, Wiggins on the West Coast, who has already buckled and gotten it. And his press conference was very sad. I caught a 30-second clip of it. So I just want to give people that background. Go ahead and give your thoughts and then I'll give mine.
Right. There is the Andrew Wiggins sort of juxtaposition. So Kyrie Irving is a better player than Andrew Wiggins, although Andrew Wiggins was I think the number 1 overall pick when he came out of school. He very talented, but just, I don't know, maybe it was because he was Canadian. He just didn't have it.
Wow, what a shot you just took. It, but, what a shot you just took at Canadians. I can't, of course, argue with you. But.
No, it's a different breed of basketball. And if you've played, I don't know, there's a difference between East Coast and West Coast basketball. I've played on the East Coast. Like there's a difference between, West Coast is more like, there's less contact and it's less physical. East Coast is more physical, and that's just, it just is what it is. And so, I don't know if he probably just didn't have quite as good competition in Canada, wasn't quite as tough. Anyways, that's a different story. But he buckled. He probably doesn't have enough leverage. He's younger. He's not as good, and he has less leverage than Kyrie. He probably, obviously he's less steadfast in his convictions. And so, for the people who are playing on teams in those cities, there's, the pressure to comply. And if you don't comply, then, what do? Do you not play in home games? And so it was a case where Kyrie Irving appears like he's standing with his convictions. I'm not sure what his contract situation is. I know he's making a ton of money, but
this is I believe that this is his last year.
Okay. So, and there's rumors of him retiring, but I wouldn't be surprised if he would be able to, go play for another team in another market, maybe for the Orlando Magic or the Miami Heat, Florida or Texas teams that would be less likely to enforce this. And so, I would say I support Kyrie in his attempts to stay unjabbed and unaffected by the medical countermeasures. And I hope it works out for him. And the other thing is that it's important for other people to see this, to see the power of saying no. And that's what we're going to showcase in this episode is like, there's alternatives, there's opportunity when there's this much, kind of craziness and darkness going on. There's opportunities to build alternatives. Maybe not an alternative professional basketball league or alternative professional football league, but those are, how much value do those bring to society anyways? And so, we can really prioritize what's really valuable and meaningful for building a better world in the future.
Yeah, and just to touch on, the whole Kyrie Irving thing. First of all, regardless of what's taking place, whether this is a magic show or not, I respect his words and his decision. Kyrie Irving has a very large tattoo of the all-seeing eye and the pyramid on his chest, I believe, or its shoulder. Yeah, I think it's arm actually. And you guys can look it up and check it out. So he seemed, and again, based on his contracts and sort of the way the causes he's supported prior to this, he certainly seems to, plus the tattoo, he certainly seems to be in the club. So then it raises the question, is this somebody who's in the club who's jumping ship, and how will that play out? Or is this part of a larger orchestrated psyop where later he'll buckle to the pressure and be that guy, or they'll blackball him and he'll be that guy? So like basically they'll make an example of him sort of one way or the other, either by him buckling or getting blackballed. So just sort of put that idea into people's mind that you can't win, even if you're Kyrie Irving. And right. So I don't know where this is going. If it is a breakaway from the narrative for someone who's kind of in the club, that's really cool. And this is something that Cliff High predicted going back 6 months or more, that you need you to be quiet, buddy, that we'd start seeing this. We'd start seeing insiders, people clearly in the club doing things that clearly are not approved. And so this may be an example of that. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, because right, that's important to remember. I didn't know about the tattoos, but yeah, that definitely, sort of signals his allegiance. And there's a reason beyond his skill level and talent that he gets commercials and deals, and he is or has become one of the faces of the league. It's like, maybe someone like, I don't know, Jimmy Butler or something like that might be similar skill level or similar, playing ability, but he's not really getting commercials and getting out there like him. It's sort of the approved players, and yeah, they're better than most of the players. They are the good players that get the endorsement deals and become the face of the league, or one of the faces of the league, like LeBron James. But LeBron James is obviously a great player, but he is also approved and part of the club, and he gets all kinds of endorsement deals and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a very interesting situation to watch, and I'll be curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, let's hit the next subject. That's all I have to say about Kyrie.
Yeah, so Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines. So there's been rumors about, a lot of Southwest Airlines flights have been canceled, and there's been a lot of rumors going on. Is it pilots walking out because they don't want to comply with the mandates that Southwest, the CEO said that he didn't want to, but he was forced by Biden. His hand was forced, which, no, it wasn't. The mandate hasn't even been written down. Like, it's just, he said, oh, we're going to do this. And like, it hasn't even been written down. And so like, he's not forced. That's a bunch of bullshit. But yeah, so the airline was saying, oh no, this isn't an organized thing, it's weather related and all that stuff, which is a bunch of nonsense too, because this is, I don't remember if ever this has happened. So there's some fight over the narrative of why this is happening. And let me share my screen again and show, whoops. Here we go.
So summarize for us, you pilots who have raised questions about these mandates have been, as noted, dismissed as criminals, terrorists. Tell us your motive in resisting this mandate.
Tucker, thanks for having me on. Yes, my motive for resisting it is primarily religious for myself. Basically, I saw, among my friends, I saw a need. Many of us don't want to take this. People were being coerced. I believe in freedom, and I'm here to support the freedom of my fellow employees and all people across this country. I'm not going to take a mandate. I'm not going to be coerced into doing something that I don't believe in.
So there are two levels at which to assess this. One is the level that you just described, the level that preserves American society as we've known it for 250 years, with freedom at its core. Because if they can make airline pilots do this, they can make airline travelers do this, and there's no end to what they can make to do. But describe, if you would, since you work in the business, what the effect on our national transportation infrastructure is about to be because of these mandates.
Well, as we know, the transportation sector is the heart and soul of this country, and it's a very delicate system. If there's a disruption in one part of the system, it has a catastrophic effect among the rest of the system, which is going to affect commerce, it's going to affect trade, and ultimately it's going to affect the economy. If you have flights reduced by 30% because 30% of pilots are fired because they won't take the vaccine, this is going to affect how your goods get here from overseas, how they're distributed to stores. You know, the same thing's happening with the truckers. It's happening in the shipping industry. Those Amazon boxes that typically show up in 2 days, you might be looking at 3 weeks.
So, I mean, it turns out that people with essential skills like airline mechanics, air traffic controllers, and yes, commercial airline pilots have more power maybe than they realize. You've got to wonder if people are being pushed to the point where they're going to be fired, how many more of these sick outs, job actions, whatever strikes, whatever you're going to call what we saw this weekend, how many more of these do you think we're likely to see?
Well, first of all, we have all the control, and the control comes from a simple word, and that's no. We just don't need to comply. As far as I'm concerned, I will never promote a sick out or a work action. That is illegal. With U.S. Freedom Flyers, the organization that I'm with, we will never promote such a thing. With that being said, we also cannot control the actions of individuals. And I think that you will see massive disruptions in supply chain in your travel if we just stand up and say no. If these companies fire us and they fire 30% of the workforce, aircraft are going to stop moving, and it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your air travel, and it's going to affect your economy.
Joe Biden will say this is your fault. Finally, how do you respond to that? He'll blame you for this.
It's his fault. It's squarely his fault. I think anyone with a critical mind can point towards the federal government and the companies that are enforcing these illegal mandates from the federal government and see that it's the federal government's fault. It certainly is.
So, I mean, I would maybe slightly disagree there with the fact that it's all Joe Biden's fault, because I think Joe Biden is a bumbling, demented old man and doesn't have any real power, and that it's really the controllers behind him. But he did mention a very good point that we do have all the power, and we can simply say no, and there's nothing they can do about it. They're going to lose they're going to lose a lot of business. Their share price has dropped, and there's still fight over the narrative. And so let me show how Google is lying to people to try to control the narrative. So here is, I typed in Southwest Airlines news, right? So there should be a lot of news. This was like the big news story over the weekend. And supposedly we get 113 million results in 0.66 seconds. And let's see. So there's only one article in the last 14 hours. Everything before that is 2 days old, 4 days old. And so let's go page 10. We get 10 results per page. They said we get 113 million results. And I'm on page 10. Now I'm on page 14. Now I'm and that's it. So we actually have 114 results. I'm on page 14. So we have 114 results. Google told us that there was 113 million results. So Google is lying to you. They are censoring what information you're able to search for. And, it's just one of the ways that the narrative is being fought for. And this is how they try to control the narrative, is by limiting what you're able to see through internet searches, through all kinds of stuff. And so I think that Southwest Airlines has reversed the mandate, and yeah. So this is just another one of the ways where Google, big tech, lie to people in order to try to control the narrative.
Yeah, and then we get the little chinks in the armor from time to time, right? Like we get to hear, you know, the "fuck Joe Biden" chants for, you know, the president who got the most votes, you know, in history. Those broke out over the weekend or recently in Rome, Italy. The "fuck Joe Biden" chants. I was scrolling YouTube and I came across two Bloomberg polls, which had never popped up on my timeline before, but two Bloomberg polls popped up and they were both asking questions about mandates. And one of them was about this, actually. So one was something about, should Southwest Airlines pilots, you know, be forced to take the jab or something like that. And they had three options. They had basically, you know, yes, they should, no, they shouldn't, or a third one was they should be required to test weekly or twice a week or something like that, or before flying or whatever it was. And again, they could be manipulating these polls, but if they are, it's just even better, right? So the no, they should not be required was either 55% or 65%, but well over 50% was no. Then it was a small number for yes, maybe 30%, 35%. And then it had about 10% or 15% or something that was in favor of the test. But 55 to 65% were squarely no. They should not be required to take the jab. That's really encouraging on a Bloomberg poll, right? This is not a alternative site poll. This is not, this is, just financial news, right? So yes, probably people who are, maybe there's a slightly higher percentage of people who more from the political right than the political left on Bloomberg, perhaps. But even if that's the case, it's a slight adjustment. So we get those chinks in the armor, and it's a great, it's really a great point you make about Google, because it's exactly what they're doing, right? They're literally controlling the narrative by controlling the flow of information. And Google's, between Google and Wikipedia, practically all our information comes from those places, right? So if you can control what happens when you type in a Google search, which of course they can, and if you control what goes into Wikipedia, which they do, then yeah, you've got a pretty good handle on the narrative, unless you're going to go outside of those places and know where to look and so on and so forth. So as Alex Jones has said for many years, we are in an information war, and that's a great example.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're just reliant on Google for your information, you might not know about the Freedom Travel Alliance. So one of the things that I wanted to share with the community and our listeners and all that stuff is the building of alternatives. So what is the Freedom Travel Alliance? The Freedom Travel Alliance is basically bringing back dignity, decency, and joy to travelers around the world, ready to move into post-pandemic pleasures that never should have been taken, brought back. Enjoying the real world in all its unchanged beauty on excursions, large and small, that will feel like the old days of travel. So it's basically, Dolores Cahill, she's out of Ireland. She's not sure, I think she's a scientist, but also, in business. I think Catherine Austin Fitz is involved with this project, and a bunch of other people. It's basically a private travel network where they're going to charter flights and make sure that people can travel unmolested and unjabbed and all that stuff to different places around the world. So this is just one of the many examples of people who see this coming, see the narrative, see the agenda at play, building alternatives. And this is just one of the alternatives that is being built. So freedomtravelalliance.com, go there. If you're interested, check it out, sign up. I'm not in any way partnered or anything like this with these people, but some people who are involved in this, I respect and think that this is a good thing to do. So, if you're interested in traveling, check out the Freedom Travel Alliance.
It's beautiful. And it's like you said, right? These are just going to be happening across every category constantly, as the pushback intensifies and we take back our world and we we decide how we want to live. I have to touch on that for a second, just some of the things I've seen locally. And this is probably a theme I'll be talking about for the foreseeable future. And I've touched on a couple of times already, but what I'm watching happen here in this community where I live is that I'm watching the new earth be built. Yes, but I'm watching, it's still early. And so now what I'm watching, the phase we're in is the energy and resources are showing up. So we've had these I don't run the day to day, but I still run a real estate company here. And so as a result of that, we get sort of a preview of what's coming in the area. We know about all the developments, we know about investment capital. Sometimes we're doing it ourselves, or we're involved with the people doing it. We're helping people find properties. So we're kind of like 6 months ahead, sort of, or a little bit more about kind of what's coming all the time. And what's coming now to this, specifically this little valley that's 10 minutes that way, called Vilcabamba, is there's just this confluence of existing residents who are all like me, right? Like they're all on the same page. They're all standing up. They're all not having it. They're very united. And there's a lot of us. So there's that. Then there's all this new energy of people coming in with amazing expertise, ideas, and capital, like amounts that I never could conceive of. Got people who are on levels that I thought were basically, you had to be in the cabal to be on that level. So we're seeing that happen. And then again, the ideas and expertise and energy with it. And then what we've seen is we've now got to see a few times sort of how local authorities react to it, to that power base, and they are completely and totally powerless. It is absolutely beautiful to see. We've had now a few meetings with the mayor, meetings with the police, meetings with this and that, and all of them are, and all the support is just coming out of the framework too, from within the existing power structure. So there's people stepping up from all walks of life who are being attracted to the energy that's being created in that valley and want to help, including people from inside who are saying, like, you guys are doing this right. We're going to make you an example. Like and they're on our side completely. They've been waiting for something like this, right? So it's like they were put in that role for that moment, and here they are sort of executing their piece of the puzzle. So, it's been really cool for me. This whole valley is going to be completely transformed here over the next period of time. And I can see it. Like, I can see what it's going to be. I can see what it is already and the energy that's there, because it always starts in the energetic world. And it's going to be what these communities that are going to pop up and are popping up all over the world, right? And everybody's interested in it right now. Community. Let's build a community. Everybody's doing that right now all over the world. These communities that are going to pop up all over the world, because of the frequency of them and because of the power base and structure behind them, they're going to be totally untouchable, completely untouchable. And so when we talk about fear, or we talk about winning and losing, or we talk about mandates or any of these sorts of things, they are literally not going to exist in that world. And it's not that they don't exist for a time in and through it and around it and in its proximity and these sorts of things. But within that actual thing, they are not going to exist because the people aren't having it. And ultimately, that's where the power lies. Ecuador, interestingly enough, and I just found this out recently, I've never studied the Ecuadorian Constitution. I probably should at some point. But the Ecuadorian Constitution, which was written fairly recently, about 20 years ago or so, has all these amazing things in it, including this sort of citizens council, where if you get organized within a town, you can basically make all your own laws and rules. This is in the Constitution. So this has been sort of recently discovered by folks here locally. And there's some really cool stuff going on as it relates to that. Sort of we can fire the whole police force. We can fire the mayor and put all our own people, just create our own structures. That's actually in the Constitution. So it's really amazing what I'm watching happen. It makes me feel very appreciative and grateful, and also vindicated for the decisions I made up to this point, right? It's like, you're going to leave New York and this successful business and your family and everything else and move to rural southern Ecuador. Are you out of your mind, right? Yes, absolutely I am, because I'm called to participate in the building of the new earth. I have that in my heart. I have that in my soul. That's on my, that's part of my life journey. And I had some tough years here. Like I had, business ups and downs and health ups and downs and personal life ups and downs, and, all kinds of, life, right? Life happens. And so, but to see it sort of now in the last couple of years, and now really coming to fruition, really happening in a way that I don't think is possible in other places, will also be happening in other places. But this is one of them. This is one of those spots where it's like all this stuff can just happen and is happening, and I'm here and I'm part of it. How cool is that? So it's really been fun to just sort of watch that and see how that's going to happen.
Yeah, and you mentioned a good point, and it's the people. And the people in the area will dictate what happens. And, I was talking with someone, and, they were making, I was saying how bad, San Francisco in particular was. And they were making the point that, well, everywhere has the same laws. Everywhere, in the US has the same mandates. Like everyone, the mask requirement is in place when it was, or whatever it was. And I made the point, it's like, yeah, they have the same laws in rural North Carolina as there, but the people are the one enforcing it. And so I've never worn a mask. I've never done any of the things that they wanted me to do. But that's because, one of the reasons is because I live in rural North Carolina, and the people here are not like the people in San Francisco, California. And so the people in San Francisco have taken the ticket, have signed up for the agenda, have, sold their soul a long time ago. And the people here haven't. And there's a huge difference. And so I think you're going to see this sort of fire burning around us, but then you're going to have these pockets, these communities where we're basically untouched, unmolested, unjabbed, unpenetrated. And, I think that's going to be, that's what's going to form. And we need to come together in our community and in real life. And, it's going to be an amazing thing.
And I want to say to people who, because like everybody, we all live in our own reality. Yes, there's collective consciousness, and then beyond that, we all live in our own reality. And so you can only believe what the parameters of your belief system in your mind allow you to believe. So the place I'm in is my place, right? It's good, it's bad, it is what it is, but it's my place. Place you're in, the place everybody's in is the place they're in. And so if the place you're in right now, and I think a lot of people are in this position, right? But if the place you're in right now is basically, you never really knew what to believe for a long time, and now you're seeing all this weird stuff happening, and it's threatening your livelihood, threatening your way of life, and you don't really know what to make of it, but you don't like it, right? Like you're not wanting to get jabbed. You're seeing the world they're trying to create, and you're not wanting to rock with that. But at the same time, you need your paycheck, you need your health insurance, and so on and so forth. If that's sort of the world you're in, I would describe that as like purgatory. It's like the in-between place, right? And so from that world, the point I want to make is that from that world, to jump into the world of you're completely protected and you don't have to worry about that stuff at all anymore, is just a shift in mindset. It's just a decision. It's just a decision to say, okay, I see what you're doing. I'm not going to participate under any circumstances, period. I make that choice in free will, solidly, strongly, right? Okay, that's step one. Bang, you've got that. As soon as you have that, you'll get a lot of relief, because there's no decisions anymore at that point, right? Like if they're going to require something like that, the decision's already made. So you'll have a lot of relief there. And then from there, it's opening up your consciousness, your senses, your mind, your way of life, your thinking, everything, opening up to the world that you're wanting to excuse me, the world that you're wanting to live in, and that is being created. And if you are actively working towards that or participating in that, you will then be drawn to the places, people, and experiences that align with that. And so then in your reality, you're not seeing anymore the pressure for the jab, or the pressure to keep your job for, to comply with things to keep your job, or the pressure because in the area you live in, they've got mandates at restaurants or different things like that. That will cease to exist in your reality, as it has ceased to exist in mine and many others, because I stood on this platform a long time ago. And so my life was aligned towards what I'm experiencing now a long time ago. But I know for sure that if it wasn't, I've watched hundreds, if not, many hundreds of people, several hundreds of people come here to this valley that I'm talking about in the last year or two, who just made that jump then, right? And so it's like, how did that happen? How did that this valley pop on their radar screen? And well, our YouTube channel usually, but for our real estate company. And it's fun. We get stopped in the street all the time. Hey, I moved here because of you. It's so cool. But right. So how did they make that shift? Well, they simply looked around at what was going on. We're like, whoa, I'm not doing this, right? Where can I go? Right? Oh, ding, boom. How does that work? Right? You get attracted to the place that you're supposed to, right? So then they come across our video or something and they say, oh, it looks like freedom and like cool stuff's going on there, right? And then they show up and then they realize, wow, this is fantastic. So I just want to make that point to people. That is not a big jump from one reality to the other. And the key is just getting into your mind and looking at what its current belief systems are, and if they need to change to create a different reality, doing that work to do so.
Yeah. And the other thing that I want to point out is that we don't know how close we are to having things really go in that direction. Like the old saying is like, with a drug addict, you have to hit rock bottom before you can make that recovery and quit the drug or quit alcohol or something like that. And, we might be getting there really quickly for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And so let's take a look at another way that, maybe we've hit rock bottom, and maybe this is the trigger to get some people out. So here is just an awful scene, but I want to show it and then illustrate a point. So this is teacher singing about masks to masked preschool children. So and 36 likes, 399 dislikes on this video.
That's great. Yeah, and if you need to know, where this is, just listen to the accent. It gives it away in about 8 seconds. And I saw this video. This is really sad.
Yeah. So.
I wear a mask to school. I wear a mask to school. Hi ho the stereo. I wear a mask to school. It helps to keep me safe. It helps to keep me safe. Hi ho the stereo. It helps to keep me safe.
So I think that's about all I can stomach of this video, but you get the idea. This is it's just an awful scenario. Parents sending their children and putting masks on their face. I mean, it's just terrible. But
how can you do that to your kids?
Yeah. But what is happening as a result? So all right. So number one, awful situation, but number two, this could be the trigger that snaps people out of it. And if you were a teacher in the public schools, maybe this is your opportunity to quit that job and go be a private school teacher, or get 10 families together and be a homeschool teacher. Because what we're seeing is a massive increase in the homeschool population. So from 2019 to the fall of 2020, the percentage of homeschool kids changed from 3.4% to 9%. That's a huge increase, almost 3 times. So almost 300% increase in about a year.
Well, and we're a year later than that now, so we could probably safely assume that trend has continued, and we're now at, if you take that same percentage change, we'd be up around 9, 18, 20, so like 20%, 22% or something at this point.
Yeah. And just, just some statistics on homeschool, 67% versus 59% graduate college. Not that I'm advocating college, I'm definitely not, but
right. Those 33% or whatever that didn't, it's because they were so far ahead of what college could have taught them that there's no point.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and here's more statistics on homeschool children doing better than public school children. Shouldn't be a shocker, but the point is that when we see an awful situation like the scene of masked preschool children singing that, I wear my mask to school to keep you safe. Like, that's awful. But it's also a catalyst to drive the trend in the other direction. More homeschooling, more less public school, more taking control into your own hands. And, look at that as an opportunity rather than, focusing on the bad part of it. So if you wanted to be a teacher, maybe now you don't go into public school. Maybe now you organize a homeschool group and you become the teacher for 10 families who want to homeschool their kids now. Maybe you start your own private school. Maybe you join a private school. So look at these situations as an opportunity, like Dolores Cahill and that group did with the airline travel. They started the Freedom Travel Alliance. So in all these bad situations where they're forcing us, they're mandating us, they're trying to do things that we find unconscionable, find the opportunities in that, because other people find them unconscionable as well. And when there is an unmet need, there is an opportunity. So that's how we need to tune our mindset into thinking about this stuff. Rather than focusing on the negative, we focus on the opportunity and how can we build something that will replace and be better than the legacy systems.
That's I'm so glad that you made that point, because it's exactly right, and it's really important. And the other side of that, right? You use the word opportunity. That's the perfect word. It's true on every level of this. And what an opportunity they're giving you to unplug and disconnect from the matrix, right? They're collapsing their own world that you then just have to unplug from. And they're pushing you out the door to do so. Like, they're kicking you in the ass on the way out of an evil system that you shouldn't have been in the first place. So what a gift, what an opportunity from that perspective as well. And I also just love it because, of course, it goes this way, right? So government comes in and tries to be the middleman in every single facet of life. They want to play the middleman. They want to regulate everything, and they want to make rules about everything, and they want to tax everything, and they want to just play the middleman in every transaction and everything that happens, right? So then they come in and they over-regulate, they make too many laws, too many regulations, too many taxes, too much control, too much. And then what happens eventually? People are just like, what are we doing? Like, why are we putting ourselves through this? Let's just get, like you're talking about, let's just get 10 families together and have someone teach our kids. Oh, the way it was always, right? The way, it probably started in the household, right? Where you teach your kids at home. And then at some point, some families got together and were like, well, Mike's really good at teaching math. Maybe he could teach a handful of our kids, this math or whatever. Right. And so this is how it started, right? And then government ruins it because that's government's job. And here they are at the point where they've actually ruined it, to the point where we're out, right? So what a beautiful sort of closed loop, like or not closed loop, but it's the dragon eating itself, right? The government is eating its own system right now. And so we just have to, the snake. And so we just have to, just step off that train, let them eat themselves, let them eat their tail until they're no longer. And during that, we get to build the beautiful world we want to live in, and all the systems and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Public school was always horrible. And now it's on full display. And so it's like, if you needed that extra little wake up or that extra little kick in the pants to get your kids out of public school, or to not send them there in the first place, then there you go. And now it's clearly displayed for everyone to see how awful this is. And now we're, making steps to do something about it. And it's so much easier now to do things about it. We have all these communication networks that we can use. We have, we have a clear delineation of people who would want to be part of this. It's such an opportunity here. Like they're just creating opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for us to build an alternative. And, so for that, we should be grateful, because that way of life, that system was crumbling, maybe slowly, but now it's like it's on full display. You can clearly see it if you have eyes to see. And all you have to do is step off the tracks, let the dead bury the dead, and be gone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, man, I gotta run. I'm late to some appointments. Hopefully we covered everything. This is for me a really fun conversation. And yeah, again, just it's all positive here, right? It's all positive. We are in the building phase now, right? So the crumbling destruction phase is well underway. The building phase is going on simultaneously. People are jumping into their sort of predetermined roles quickly and with gusto right now. And so that's sort of the phase and time we're in. So, it's, if you're participating in this, awesome, power to you. I love you. If you are wanting to participate in this, it's such an easy time right now to do so. It's such an easy time to just make that shift and let your heart guide you and let God guide you, and just go to the place, physically or not, that you're supposed to be in the world and in this whole plan and in this whole thing that's unfolding. So, and again, for those of you who your fight is in the old world, do that well too, because we need that also, right? So there are definitely people whose job it is to expose the system, fight the system from within the system, and do the court cases and do the sovereignty and the natural law stuff, and do the demonstrations and show people you don't have to be afraid, you don't have to wear a mask and all this stuff. That's not my role. There are people whose role that is. Play that role well. That's an important one too. But whatever it is that your piece of this puzzle is, it's a time now where you can just jump in. You could go from zero. We'll say 60. It shouldn't be 60. It should be 160. But you could go from 0 to 60, in like 3 days right now. You could, a really fast car. You could go from 0 to 60. You could just get involved today, and in 3 days from now, you could be like in the whirlwind. So just want to again encourage people to do that.
Yeah, totally. It never has there been an easier time to do something like this, to be bold, to do something, to build something, to create an alternative, to join people who are already doing this, to get involved. And I strongly encourage everyone with everyone to do that who is not liking what's going on around them, because it doesn't have to be like that. And all you have to do is take the step to get yourself out, and the universe, the world, whatever it is, will continue to show opportunities, and to continue to have synchronicity show up, and all kinds of things that will help push you further down that path. And so I think that's a good place to leave it. And we will, please like, share, subscribe. We have 2 strikes on our main YouTube channel. Please like the backup channel that we're streaming on now. But most importantly, get over to Rumble. That's going to be our main platform going forward. When we do eventually get kicked off of YouTube, I'm sure that's not too long from now. So please do that. And please share this with anyone who needs a little push to get onto the good side. So I think we'll leave it there, and we will talk to you next week.